Welcome to the Movie Vault's 138th episode spectacular, where we review the Simpsons movie.
It's an incredibly special episode for the Movie Vault.
Mm-hmm. I've been waiting for this for maybe 2 or 3 years since I thought of the idea. In the Simpsons lore, there is, I'll just get right into it. There is this idea of the 138th episode spectacular, where in the Simpsons 138th episode, yes, there are that many. Yes, there are probably 6 times that many episodes out there, maybe 5. There is just a random special episode with Troy McClure hosting, and they kind of go through some clip shows. I think it was to save money, where they reuse old clips in the episode, you know? But it was just kind of like a big gag, like choosing the most random number to be a very special episode. And I thought, if we ever review the Simpsons movie, it's going to be on the 138th episode, and we would make it a spectacular. So here we are. I didn't think we'd get this far for us to do it. I thought that was like a pipe dream. I
Wow,
also don't
Zach,
get the idea of pipe dream.
You have little faith. Well, it's because people often, really want pipes like in their kitchens and things, and they dream about them, but they don't think they're actually going to get them ever.
Is that like legit true?
No, that's not true.
Okay.
I don't know why the term pipe dream is
Okay.
a term, actually.
Okay. Anyway, The Simpsons is the longest running scripted, I believe, show that's not like a telenova or soap opera, and definitely the longest running animated television show. There are 36 seasons at the moment, with season 37 coming out soon in the next year, and then also they are renewed officially as of this month through season 40, which is groundbreaking, but also very expected because Fox loves The Simpsons.
They probably are like a paycheck or a guaranteed like revenue generator, basically.
You have a multi-generational TV show that I can tell through my own personal experience that's multi-generational within my family, sort of how Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was for your family. The Simpsons is for mine. And
I see.
This episode will be very Zach-centric and very...
Which Zach is excited about after all of the European movies that I've subjected Zach to. And that he's loved, that he's loved. He has loved them, and
yes.
and now he's spread his own wings. But I am excited to hear about something that you're passionate about, and you've spent a lot of time devoted to.
Mm-hmm. Yes, so I've seen every episode, all 700 whatever, and this is very much a family-based film. My grandpa, my father's dad, started watching it when it first started come out, and then he got my dad watching it. And then my dad actually wasn't directly involved in me watching it. He did get me the first season on DVD when I turned 13 on my 13th birthday. I remember that. And that was the start of my DVD collection.
Which is now a very large, nice DVD collection you've got.
Yeah, Goodwill is a great source for that. Now, it was like, how old would I have been? It was 2015 when that was the case. We're 10 years later, 2025. I've seen all of The Simpsons. I've kept up with it. I think when I turned 13, that was when I was allowed to watch it. And I think I binged like 590 episodes in I think like 6 months.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That's more that I feel like there should be a word that's like above binge for that sort of consumption.
It was a massive amount of Simpsons.
Was this like every homework assignment,
No. I would get my homework done, and then I would just watch The Simpsons and eat food.
That sounds like
in the summer. I would work and come home and watch.
Doesn't this just like take you back?
It does a little bit. And then I've kept up since. What I usually do is I wait for the whole season to come out, and then I binge it on Hulu. So I guess I haven't seen every episode. I'm probably a few behind right now. But there are many eras of Simpsons. Now, this episode is about the Simpsons movie that we have both watched, but let me just kind of give an overview of the Simpsons in general.
Well, let's give a little bit of context on my perspective of this.
That's fair.
Before we start, I have seen 0 episodes of so we're getting both sides of the spectrum.
Great.
0 episodes of the Simpsons. Maybe I want to say maybe once I started watching the first episode on Disney Plus, and I didn't make it very far. Not because I like was opposed to that. Sometimes you click something and then you turn it off and then you forget to come back to it. That's kind of what
happens all the time.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean you don't like it, because I've done that for Twin Peaks.
Yeah, exactly. So, and I've done that for many, many things. So The Simpsons, there was no like thing I despised of it, but I think whenever something has a massive collection of episodes, it's a little bit daunting.
That's why I was going to use the word daunting. You took it right out of my mouth. There's such a massive repertoire of episodes and seasons and lore and history. Now, The Simpsons has always been, maybe not so much in the last couple decades, but it was for the first couple decades, it was intertwined deeply in the cultural narrative and reflective, and also pushing back at the cultural narrative, kind of a meta commentary, irony of it, and just involved, I would say. It got a little bit lost, maybe fell a little bit behind when technology started improving a little bit, and The Simpsons, now modern Simpsons, has caught up, I think, with the times. Obviously, it's so influential when it comes to not just animation, but comedy in general, in TV shows specifically. When you think of like cutaway gag scenes, The Simpsons started that. When you think of shorts, animated shorts, The Simpsons started that. When you think of like a sitcom that's animated, The Simpsons started that. Like,
when you think of memes,
yeah. When you think of dysfunctional families, this was 1989 when the first season came out. It was on the Tracy Ullman Show for 2 years before that, in 1987, just with shorts. It was like a comedy show with Tracy Ullman hosting, and there would be a Simpsons episode.
So it was like a variety show, and then they had Simpsons. That's how a lot of shows started.
Yeah,
actually.
And it got
my dad's favorite show growing up was The Honeymooners with Jackie Gleason, and that's how that show started.
Oh, really?
Back in the 50s, there was a variety show, and they'd go to The Honeymooners, and then eventually it became its own thing. Now, The Honeymooners did not go on for as long as The Simpsons.
No.
Although you have to think that The Honeymooners basically influenced every TV show after. So at least every sitcom comedy after. So
for sure.
It could have influenced The Simpsons
That
slightly.
might have been how things got started back then, was from clip shows or allowing yourself to be in someone else's show and then kind of getting your own primetime television spot. Now, The Simpsons has always been a Sunday night spot. My grandpa always told me he used to try to get home after church activities from the day and get home so he could watch The Simpsons, and he said he never really missed it, and he'd grab a Pepsi and watch The Simpsons, and he still does, I think. But now it's a lot more streaming these days. There's not really cable. But this movie, we can kind of shift a little bit. This movie, there's so much you could talk about this, and maybe we'll do a little Outside the Vault one day on The Simpsons show, and I can talk more. But this is a movie podcast, and I need to remind myself that. This movie was very late. This movie came out after the 17th season of The Simpsons. I believe in... What year did this come out again?
2007.
Okay, so...
keep in mind, other TV shows had done this, where they made a movie after the TV show. South Park being the prime
bigger,
one.
longer uncut.
Yeah. So it's interesting that they still waited, to strike even after the success of South Park and South Park's movie.
Now,
which I think was made very soon after the show.
Yes, it was. 10 years before that, they had started the concept of the movie. It took them 10 years to get the movie going, because the writer Matt Groening, who created The Simpsons and Futurama and other shows like Disenchanted and a lot of comic strips like Life in Hell, he was kind of very much in charge of The Simpsons, along with Sam Simon, James L. Brooks, people like that, the big executive producers. They could not decide what they wanted the story to be. The thing with The Simpsons is they really stick to the plan and don't go far away from that. With Family Guy, you have a random Star Wars trilogy in the middle of the teen seasons. You have a couple movies here and there. You have a lot of shorts. You have a lot of crossovers. With The Simpsons, it pretty much stays, we're going to do 22 episodes per season. That's what we're doing. Self-contained. Everything resets by the end of the episode. Sure, we can call back and develop characters over time, but overall, we are sticking to the plan. And that's what The Simpsons is very good at, almost like the movie vault.
Yeah, we stick to the plan.
Yeah, we don't have many segments outside the vaults and, the arcs. And it took 10 years to finally get this movie going. Once they finally got it going, people are like, okay, why are we doing it now when we're in the teen seasons and, the cultural oomph of The Simpsons has started to flail? Because once it kind of started getting into the teen years, The Simpsons really became less popular. Not that it wouldn't be considered popular by anyone's standards. It was still popular, but less. Because when The Simpsons first hit the ground running, it was running. Very popular. Eat My Shorts. Bart Simpson was everywhere in malls. There's merchandise everywhere.
This is like one of the staples of pop culture.
For sure.
Especially in the 90s.
There's a Simpsons Land at Universal. And they have a really good donut there. Really good. And
I'll have to try it sometime.
Yeah. I think you'd like Universal.
I would love Universal.
You'd like it better than Disney.
I would definitely like it better than Disney,
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Yeah.
I have a better mix of things than Disney for me.
Yeah. And so they made the movie. It was immediately a success. I think it had like a $70 million budget, made over $500 million.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. It's the second highest grossing traditional animated movie. What they mean by that is 2D animated movie. Only behind The Lion King, which was a hugely successful movie when it came out.
Yeah, and the fact that can even compare because it's a television show movie.
Yeah, exactly. And there's been so many I guess the shift to 3D animation really changed things and, after Toy Story. But you think of all of those classic Disney properties and things, and none of them could touch other than The Lion King, could touch, The Simpsons movie.
Because it was so long awaited. Even though the cultural oomph that The Simpsons had was being lost in the teen years, there was still an anticipation for a movie to come out. And I think Matt Groening and his associates recognized that because they had seen that there was such a demand for it for so many years, 2 decades almost, where what they had to be, when they delivered it, it had to be perfect. And its success doesn't necessarily mean that it's a perfect movie. I have some complaints here and there. But overall, for a TV movie, and I've seen a lot of them, this is kind of in my opinion, the standard. I think it overall delivered what you would want out of a TV movie.
I enjoyed this a lot more than Bigger, Longer, and Uncut.
Oh, yeah. I've seen that, too. So it's a lot cleaner, too. Yeah, there's no Osama bin Laden or anything like that. There's no Satan. So
yeah, definitely very different brands of comedy, but I think this one is just overall just a better product.
With heart.
Yes, and
it
that's
has
important.
Heart to it. And The Simpsons, its prime time was known for its heart, especially the father-son relationship between Bart and Homer. What would you say, you don't know anything about The Simpsons, what did you learn, I guess, about The Simpsons through this? Because this isn't your typical Simpsons episode.
So I learned that Homer is, he's supposed to be, he's sort of the stereotypical TV dad.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bit of a mess up.
Mm-hmm.
He's a bit of a klutz.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't always think that deeply.
No.
Or about his actions and how they have consequences.
Mm-hmm.
And then, we got all the other side characters and his family. You got Bart, who really craves having a good relationship with his father. The one character that really surprised me?
Who?
Ned Flanders.
Okay.
Because I knew about Ned Flanders, but I was like, man, this guy's a really good guy. I was expecting him to be the goofy, kind of maybe creepy.
No.
Neighbor, but he's actually a good guy. Everyone should try to be like Ned Flanders.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that was a bit of a surprise. And I don't know. I think whenever I think of The Simpsons, since I've watched Family Guy, I kind of compare them. But The Simpsons is not.
No, it's so unalike.
Not like Family Guy.
No.
And
Family Guy came much later.
Yes,
about a decade
of course.
later.
And then, Lisa Simpson and her. I thought it was funny how she was canvassing against the lake, and and she found the love of her life. And of course, I enjoyed the Green Day concert and the irony of them not caring once they, said something about something besides the music that they were playing, which is funny because you think of like Green Day as being kind of a progressive band, and they've always been that way. But like, yeah, their fans don't always care about that stuff, which they got, they had some commentary on that. And the whole, big, I was expecting like the big, goofy plot points that I mean, not exactly how it was executed, but I wasn't surprised by like the dome and the, just that felt kind of like what you would expect from this sort of like, super hyperbolic animated world that you could do, crazy, silly stuff with. Yeah. Which I enjoyed a lot. I enjoyed that, that they do the rapid fire jokes, which I think like is something that Family Guy pulled off of, that it's not every second is a gag, like, or a cutaway like Family Guy, but the like rate that they make jokes at is pretty impressive. And you have to like, if you like look away for a second and you come back, you'll like have missed something.
I think that's definitely true. I think that was for me the only negative of the film, because I think it does it faster than the show.
Right. So it doesn't, maybe they're trying to fit too much in.
I think it sacrificed slightly the heart of the film for a few gags here and there. I don't think it did it to an extreme intensity, but I think it was a little bit sacrificial, unfortunately. But I think it still got the heart across. I think there was definitely a lot of great character moments, especially for Homer, and I would say even between Homer and Marge, like the whole marriage aspect of it, and the fact that like it seemed that there were some stakes at this time, because in the show they never really talked about divorce or anything like that ever. And in this movie, it kind of seems like, oh, maybe something about
that's
like
true.
That was happen.
That was a big aspect of where Marge is like, wait, why am I with this guy?
And she's done stuff like that in the show, but it's never been like with a serious tone to it. It's always like a joke, like and with this, it's like, and you play the song, "Why do birds suddenly appear every time?" And it's like their wedding song, and Homer's on the bed listening to Marge talk about how like she's leaving him and taking the kids, and he can do whatever he wants, but I don't know. It's much different tone than what the show is. So I think those stakes really elevated the meaning, because it's like, it's almost like when you have a friend and they can never take life seriously, and then they finally like open up to you about something, and you're like, yeah, this is what I've been wanting to hear all this time.
Oh yeah, that's very true.
Yeah.
And it only took 17 seasons in the movie.
Yeah. Well, that's probably what having a kid is like. Like it takes 25 years for them to mature.
That's a good point. Maybe longer.
Yeah.
In some cases.
Our frontal lobes still have about 5 years?
Yeah. That's
6
crazy.
years, 7, something like that. I can't wait to see how smart I am then.
Do you think you'll notice? Will be a noticeable?
I think I wake up when I'm 30 and I'm like, man, I'm so much wiser.
I have less desire to make irrational decisions.
I wonder if it's like the power goes more to the frontal lobe when it's fully developed and away from like your joints and knees, and you immediately start to hurt.
Yeah,
it's
maybe.
Definitely a medical thing.
Possibly.
Yeah. Yeah, I think there are a lot of goofy things in this too. Like you have Arnold Schwarzenegger as the president. You have,
or is he the EPA president?
No, that's Russ Cargill. Arnold Schwarzenegger is the
actual president. Okay.
And it's just like, why? He's just the president apparently. And then you have the whole plot line with Bart wanting Ned Flanders as a dad instead of Homer, because Homer's kind of absent a little bit and aloof and stuff, and selfish in some ways after that beginning scene where Bart shows his wiener and he's skateboarding, and then he is like chained.
He would have to do 1 hour of parent classes to learn how to be a better parent, and that's too much for him.
Yes.
He's too selfish for that.
Yes.
And instead the embarrassment all goes to his son, who he dared to skateboard naked to the Krusty Krab.
And the opening scene with them is great, where they're on the roof and Bart climbs up the antenna and he's like, earthquake. He's shaking the antenna and his son falls off into the gutter. And
it's a very visceral, the funny part about that scene is it shows you very clearly how terrible of a father he is, but not in the way that you would expect. Normally you would expect a show to show that in more of an emotional way. This shows this in a very I'm willing to put my son into danger for laughs type of way.
Yes.
And it doesn't seem like Bart. It seems like Bart is enjoying it, or they're not facing the reality. And Ned Flanders is like, won't he become a paraplegic if you fall? Or
paraplegiorino?
Yeah,
that's what it says.
Paraplegiorino if he falls. And you're like, well, yeah, he will.
Yes.
And he's hanging off but it doesn't seem like either of them understand the stakes of the situation.
Yes, and that's what it is. Homer, throughout all of The Simpsons, has never considered consequences. And it's the same thing with Mr. Plopper's or Spider Pig's, poop in the silo and putting that just storing that in the Lake Springfield and it getting toxic, what brought the dome. It's like Homer never considers these consequences, and it kind of plays. It's a really nice story that kind of plays into that, because then it's by the end of the film he has to make a choice. Is he going to own up to and kind of face the decisions that he makes for his family, or kind of run away from it and just be in Alaska, right? Which Alaska sounds awesome. They just give you money when you go in,
Yeah.
And it looks picture perfect.
And the Pan's Labyrinth scene. Do you notice that?
Yes.
Yeah. There's lots of references in this movie.
And that's The Simpsons has always been referential in everything it does. It kind of defined the idea of being referential. It influenced pop culture to become referential.
Like you said, it's a meta commentary. So every second they have is an opportunity to incorporate some aspect of culture into that. It's like Tarantino's fever dream.
Yeah.
Of recycling things.
Yes.
Except for they're not recycling 70s B movies. They're recycling things that people actually know about.
Yes.
Which
a little bit more relevant.
Which allows the audience to, it means the audience will interact with it in a different way.
Yes.
Than it will a Tarantino movie. Because if you actually know what's being referenced, then you're like, oh, I get, I see that.
Yes.
Like I did with the Pan's Labyrinth.
I understood that reference.
Oh, I saw that.
Yeah.
And you feel, kind of good about yourself, and it makes you makes your endorphins rush.
I'm
and
smart.
Yeah, and then and then that's why you come back to the next episode.
I'm so smart. I deserve to watch this. Yeah, as if everyone else doesn't.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's pulling from things that the broadest base of what everyone should know.
Yeah.
I mean, not everyone won't know every single reference, but hopefully they'll get a majority of them.
Yes.
And that's kind of the goal. But it is awesome because of that.
Yeah. And you got lots of, The Simpsons has always been it's also influential, and it has a guest star almost every episode. A famous person in every episode. You have The Weeknd, Michael Jackson in season 6. You have crazy guest stars in almost every single episode, and they've always been waiting for Tom Hanks, and they finally put him in this movie as the ultimate guest star, and obviously he's hilarious.
Yeah, he's making fun of the U.S. government,
yeah,
which is funny. They brought me in because they needed to get a little bit more credit.
Yeah, for sure. So and now shows and everything, there are so many guest stars everywhere, and that didn't really happen before The Simpsons, and it's an animated show, and it influenced live action guest stars, and that's pretty cool. And now I will say, it's interesting after waiting 10 years to make this movie, that the plot is just it seems almost random a little bit. It's not related to any central themes or motifs throughout the show of The Simpsons. You could think okay, let's say Twin Peaks has Fire Walk with Me. It's based on the central theme of Laura Palmer, which is the heart of the plot, right?
Yeah, even though it's not centrally, it's something that's not focused on entirely in the show.
Yes.
That you get to learn about.
Yes.
That's really referenced in the center of the show.
That was the long way of. Is not that. The Simpsons movie is taking a random plot and adding heart to it but the heart is the relationships at the same time.
In that way, it's kind of like bigger, longer, and uncut, or however, whatever the 3 words, because it's just like a random South Park episode extended.
Yes,
but maybe lacking the heart a little bit.
Yeah,
I'm sure in the South Park way it has heart, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
Not that they were looking to that movie. It's just the only thing I have to compare it to.
Sure. Yes, and I've seen the Family Guy Star Wars trilogy and the Family Guy movies, and I mean, they're really just jokes the whole time. There's not heart. There's no heart. It's really just flashy jokes.
How many jokes can we and gags can we make?
And how far can we take it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's Family Guy. Which, hey, I think there's a place for that in pop culture. Just like, where are the boundaries that we can push? But like, that started with The Simpsons. There was like a decade or maybe 8 seasons where The Simpsons was kind of afraid to push back on the culture, got very politically correct in a lot of ways, and was unable to be an effective commentary on culture because it was trying to push some specific themes, if that makes sense, and kind of just make sure that it aligned correctly on what they would consider the right side of history in a lot of ways. And since Disney bought them, oddly enough, they stopped doing that. Where, yes, they're still like a little bit political here and there, but they kind of are making fun of everything in culture in the last maybe 5 or 6 seasons. So people are saying The Simpsons right now is actually on the rise again. And I would agree. I think the last few seasons have been really good.
Well, I'm sure they are at their best when they're appealing to the widest audience. Because again, like I said, it's kind of clicking for me why they're so popular with, like you said, their ability to push on, all aspects and have heart. Like, again, Family Guy and South Park are always going to be limited by the fact that people are going to be turned off by the crudeness or the how far they're willing to take the jokes. And really, I mean, South Park especially has no heart. Like, it's a lot of just like meanness, basically.
Yes, cynicality.
Yeah. Being very...
Or I should say cynicism, sorry.
Yeah, cynicism, like, and that gets really like exhausting after a while, especially if you're already cynical and you're
like, I already have this in me.
Now my entertainment's also cynical.
Yeah.
And it's just like, and some people feed off of that, I suppose, but like, not a lot of people are going to eventually be like, okay, this is a little much. Like, definitely. I'd rather watch something that's more enjoyable, and more wholesome even.
I would not call The Simpsons cynical, because I think the unique part about The Simpsons is each family member represents a certain perspective, where Marge is like the family-loving person who kind of strives to be good but falls here and there and gets a little bit selfish. Lisa's considered like the social justice warrior who, actually wants to look out for people but also has what would be considered crazy beliefs by other members in her family. Bart's the troublemaker, but has a lot of heart to him too at some points. And then Homer's like the dumb idiot, but always seems to come around in the last minute. And then Maggie's a bystander who saves the day sometimes. But you have these completely different people within one family, the nuclear family of the U.S. So it is a commentary on that as well. And if the cynicism is really just from like one character, which is it's usually like Lisa or maybe Bart here and there, rather than being like Family Guy or especially South Park, where every character is cynical, every character is talking about Osama bin Laden in the government or something like that. Whereas in The Simpsons, it provides almost like a discussion, almost like the show Community, where each character around the table has their own perspective. And the comedy is in the interactions between those perspectives, right, rather than them all sharing one perspective and making fun of another perspective.
Yeah.
I think there's a lot of health in that, even though like at the end of the day, there are wrong ones and right ones. But I think there's a lot of health in those funny interactions showing like this is how real life conversations actually are. And The Simpsons in its heyday is a really good commentary on the good and bad of culture, where they see the positives and negatives in everything and are very fair in their assessments. And then when The Simpsons goes down and is kind of seems out of touch with reality, that's when it is trying to get some type of message across rather than being a commentary. It becomes more of a narrative.
Yeah, it's like it becomes the thing that the people accused Green Day of being, which is preachy.
Yes.
Like whenever something has like an obvious message or thing it's trying to push. I feel it's really, you can see it very clearly anytime you watch a TV show and you're like, oh, this is what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
Like, you want them to be deceptive if they're going to do that. Like, trick me into
manipulate me. Yeah.
Manipulate me. Don't let me be able to see right through the mirage or whatever. You know, we talked about this a couple episodes ago with like the oh, now I forget what the movie's called, Triangle of Sadness, and like the capitalism movies. Those are, you know, our
That's
issues.
like your representative movie of capitalism.
It is. It's the most obvious one. Yeah, have you ever watched Triangle of Sadness?
I don't want you really make it sound unappealing.
It's not a good movie.
But I might, just so I can understand your multiple references.
Yeah, and I know people love Ruben Östlund, and he's won like multiple Palme d'Ors, but those are all the people who are like
to win multiple. That's crazy.
The annoying, you know.
That didn't win a Palme d'Or.
I think it did.
That's crazy. You don't like it at all.
Yeah, but that's typical of Palme d'Or winners, is that they're like.
We're gonna have a great discussion at the end with a movie I watched last night.
Yeah, it won the 2022 Palme d'Or.
That's crazy. Okay, well, maybe I'll watch it tonight. Yeah.
Does anyone else think Triangle of Sadness won the Palme d'Or just because of the zeitgeist? I mean, yeah, this person's saying it's too heavy-handed and over the top, which is what I would not necessarily. I like things that are over the top, but heavy-handed is a great word.
It's not subtle.
But you know, I'm reading more about like the commentary, even just the Wikipedia commentary on the Simpsons movie, and they point out very well that like environmentalism and religion are both focused on, along with the central message of a man should listen to his wife, which is the central message of all TV shows since The Honeymooners. See, it all comes back, because that's literally the plot of The Honeymooners. Is just every episode Jackie Gleason has an idea that's stupid, and he yells at his wife and says and tries to get his way, and at the end of the movie end of the episode she was right the whole time, and then he has to apologize.
Yeah.
So that's, I mean, I'm not joking when I say The Honeymooners influence all like sitcoms, because but it's fitting that this movie is like, the plot is the like epitome of all sitcom messaging in a movie form.
Yeah, I think you're right. It shows, and The Simpsons has never stayed away from big political topics. Like, it's very clear that the Simpsons writers are pro environmentalism and activism, and they use Lisa kind of as this protagonist in those types of episodes. But then sometimes they'll have a commentary episode about how stupid maybe the left is, right? And on a certain issue. And then they'll make Lisa the foil of that episode. So you see what I mean? Like, you can use different characters and what their ideologies would normally be associated with, and kind of craft your own meta commentary using different characters and their worldviews.
And here's the thing, and the reason why that's important. So even if you're not someone who totally buys in on climate change, all of these different things that tend to be politicized, like there's usually people are turned off by them because there's usually a political motive alongside the environmental motive for the thing. But that doesn't mean you should like go burn trash and like burn tires and do things purposefully to like pollute the world, because it doesn't, you know, change the fact that those are things that are polluting and you don't have to do them. Like, there's ways around them. And you'd be like choosing to go around the thing that's better.
Sure, like dumping poop
for the environment, or just being like courteous of your neighbor. Sure. And that like burning trash is going to smell, even if you live in the country, smells carry. You know, like,
this sounds personal.
You can it's not, but you can become so like you're against an idea so much that you turn into somebody you never intended to turn into. And that's why you need to, even if the other perspective is wrong, or there's a lot of flaws with it, it's sometimes still good to hear that perspective to make you face your own.
Yeah, that's a good point. And The Simpsons has always been good on that. And it comes from its plethora of writers, right? From Conan O'Brien to literally the executive producers writing some.
I mean, I was seeing Brad Bird was a writer on The Simpsons.
They've had every major writer in all of Hollywood come in and write an episode. I'm pretty sure Lady Gaga wrote her own episode.
The writers' rooms have to be crazy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
And just the biggest names out there. And to think like the heyday was written by Conan O'Brien that's a really good, like he got his start in The Simpsons.
That's crazy.
So it's like a lot of
and
these
he's been
people,
around forever.
Yeah.
It feels like.
Yeah, he just came out with a new one, Conan O'Brien Must Go or something like that.
It's a new show thing.
Yeah, I think it's his new special.
I'm surprised like he never made it. Like he never got like the late night spot. He was always like on TBS. He never, which is
I thought he Late Night with Conan O'Brien?
No, yeah, but it's on TBS. It's cable. He never got like the ABC, the CBS gig.
Oh, like were those more major?
Like Letterman. Well, I mean, I don't know. I mean, you could argue that in terms of his impact on culture, he's had more impact than like Jimmy Kimmel or the guys who own the show.
He's not a
but like you have to think like he was coming up when there was Jay Leno, when there was David Letterman, and then maybe he got too old to fill the spots when those people retired. I'm not totally sure.
Well, to quote the famous Tim Dillon, Jimmy Kimmel and Jimmy Fallon are chained to their desk with a script. So
yeah, and maybe eventually maybe it became he didn't want to be tied down by what those studios wanted him to do, and Kimmel and Fallon were more of they fit the mold better.
I don't know. I'm not sure. I wouldn't put it past any of these guys out there. I don't know. But yeah,
I mean, all we can do is speculate, right?
And The Simpsons, when it's most honest, you can see it come through. I will say the writing in many of the episodes of The Simpsons is just so creative and so well put together. They have done almost everything. There is not really much else that can be done in The Simpsons. They have started making the most random plot lines ever in the later seasons because there is nothing else to do. They must random generate the plot in order to create something unique.
They're like digging through the files of other TV show episodes, movies that people forgot
Homer
about.
has had every possible job ever. And so has Marge. Bart has done every possible prank.
Well, because the kids can't grow up.
No, and the funny thing is they just did an episode starting out season 36 about Bart having his next birthday. And they did a bunch of spoofs of how The Simpsons might end one day. And it was like a bunch of... So it played on the ending of The Sopranos, the ending of Breaking Bad. It did a bunch of fake endings.
Oh, that's hilarious.
And it was really
this
good.
Is making me want to watch it.
Yeah, it was really good. And The Simpsons is good at that, like understanding where its audience is at. Because The Simpsons does have lore and it does have continuity, even though it's a different plot line every time.
Just like Evil Morty.
Yeah, it kind of. But like there's no villain of The Simpsons. It's kind of like the continuity is character development and the plethora of characters. It's
kind of beautiful too that it's like now it would be considered like an old style of TV show making. Mm-hmm. Like there's not as many TV shows that have that they restart after every episode thing. Yeah. That used to be how every TV show was.
Yeah, now everything needs some type of
now it's like there's got to be a plot, and that's what I just joked about Evil Morty, but like the whole tension of that show before the whole Justin Roiland stuff happened was that the fans wanted like a cohesive plot that kept going, and the writers didn't. Yeah. And they would make these episodes that like fed into the fans' things, and then they would like take it away.
Well, the story
which I thought was awesome, but
the Story Train episode is almost the perfect commentary of that struggle that the writers have. They really describe pretty accurately, like how do we balance lore with making good adventures in episodes, and the Story Train episode plays on that in the most meta way possible. It's the most meta thing I've ever watched, to be honest.
Yeah, it's crazy.
And yeah, I really liked that. I was mad when that episode came out because I wanted lore, and they kind of like disrupted the lore on purpose to make you mad on purpose. And now looking back, I'm like, that episode is kind of genius.
Yeah.
Like playing with us.
That's what good writers do. And I'm sure The Simpsons has had the most amount of good writers ever of any TV show.
And bad. That's the thing. The Simpsons most has amount of bad hits and the most misses.
I would believe that.
Yeah.
I mean, when you have something that's as extensive as it is,
yeah,
you can't really rein it in. If you have 22 episodes a season, you can't necessarily always make it tight.
Yeah. You know? But also with that many times of going up to the bat, you have a lot of predictions that come true. Obviously, the most notable that has been in recent years is the presidential election of Donald Trump. The Simpsons predicted that way before. They even predicted like him coming down the elevator in a specific way in Trump Tower. Like they literally animated that. Him in Trump Tower walking.
Do you
down.
think
Trump saw that and tried to do it?
Yeah,
there's a chance.
But at the same time, not knowing, I say that like I actually know him. No, like knowing what I know about Trump, it seems like he wouldn't think that deeply.
I think he was just known for coming down that way.
It was, yeah. They were probably already pulling on something that already existed.
The Simpsons writers are very smart.
Yeah.
They are actually PhDs. The ones that have stayed throughout these decades are mathematicians who have created new mathematical formulas and implemented them into their episodes to display to the world what their research is.
Crazy.
So there's a book out there called The Mathematics of the Simpsons, and it explains kind of how the Simpsons the writers have hidden a lot of their research of mathematics in their episodes. And it's the most cool thing that you could watch in a TV show. So Donald Trump, loosely the COVID-19 virus, where they had an episode that came from China, and it was like a box of particles, and it got people sick, and there's a whole episode about it. And I mean, lots of different things, and you can say, oh, there's a lot of coincidences, but they did have a lot of time to swing at the bat. So like eventually you're going to get some balls that go in the same direction as the previous ones. So
I'm sure there's some really interesting predictions that did not come true.
Sure. Yeah.
So you could probably make a whole video on those.
So
you'd be like, what if the world went this way?
In the movie, there's a scene where Bart puts on the bra on his head and says, oh, we're the property of an evil corporation. And it's like, that's literally the Simpsons predicting them being bought by Disney.
That's crazy.
Like many years later, and 10 years later. And they, like, I don't know if they really expected that, but that's what happened. And the Simpsons is, people think it's witchcraft, but yeah.
It's really just intelligent people in a room, and they're writing a lot.
Yes.
So it's not crazy to think that you could predict a few things, especially if you have a really good beat on what's going on in the culture, right?
It's like Tim Dillon predicting all the wars and everything. You know what I mean?
It's not necessarily intentional, but it's just you learn to write things probably that are not actually that far out of the realm of possibility of happening, right? Like Donald Trump becoming president, like people, but if you really thought about it, it wasn't that crazy.
Sure.
I mean, the right sort of cultural things had to happen for that moment.
But the combination to be able to happen, his ambition with this, I don't want to say stupidity, but like the attraction to fame in our culture,
and like the
godifying of people.
Yeah, and the Republican Party just like becoming just really old white guys who are boring. So you need a really old white guy who is not boring.
Sure.
To lead the party.
That's a good point.
Kind of, because like George Bush, I mean, I'm sure they were making fun of him by having Arnold Schwarzenegger in here. And
listen, this is what I'll say. They had an episode of The Simpsons while Bill Clinton was president that was about Bill Clinton moving in next door to The Simpsons. And the whole episode is Homer Simpson fighting with Bill Clinton. And they get in like a fist fight for like the last 5 minutes of the movie or the show episode.
That's fun. That's hilarious.
And it's like considered one of the greatest and most disrespectful episodes ever. And then I guess he wrote back a letter to The Simpsons saying he was like honored to be in it. But it was like, that's like the type of stuff that they do. Like they really get involved in American politics. They really get involved in the middle of the culture and like address it. Like there were Monica Lewinsky jokes in there.
Oh, I'm sure there were. I believe it.
And what else? I mean, what else can you do as Bill Clinton besides say I'm honored to be? You know what I mean? Like if you get mad, you look like a jerk. It's The Simpsons, you know.
Exactly.
They kind of have all the power in this. To be honest.
That is true.
Yeah,
they have all the power. So it's interesting thinking about your grandpa was immediately drawn to this show.
I have no idea
because
why.
I'm just thinking about people from the older generations and the idea that like you could make a cartoon that wasn't for like kids. Like not that you couldn't enjoy a cartoon, but that a cartoon would be made that was primarily for adults.
So he would have been 10 years older than me when the show started. So I think he's like 75 now, and I'm in my
so
20s.
he wouldn't have been like 75 when he first started watching
No,
the
but
show.
like my dad would have been like 10 years old when it started. So I think, yeah, about 10 years old exactly, actually. And so like there is this element of like, I think he specifically found Homer hilarious. Just like the buffoonery. He's really like into buffoonery, I guess. He's not a buffoon at all, but he really enjoys, like, there's a specific scene where he talks about where Homer, it's just the stupidest thing ever. It has no like cleverness to it, where there's a pie on the floor and Bart sets it up as a trap to get his father captured. And Homer like walks by the kitchen. He's like, ooh, floor pie. And he just jumps on the pie. And it's like, there's nothing there. And my grandpa finds that scene the fun. Like, he started laughing so hard when that was on the TV, and he quotes it all the time. And I just remember thinking, like, interesting. Like, it's okay to enjoy those types of jokes that really don't have much substance to them. And the buffoonery is really just what's funny about it for him. And yeah, he finds a lot of things funny, but he found Grunkle Stan from Gravity Falls really funny too. I think he really likes those like stupid humor jokes, I guess.
Well, right, and so,
of selfish people,
yeah,
to be honest.
And sometimes like you just need humor to be like dumb and silly, and it doesn't have to be this like super intelligent, witty, nobody ever would have thought of that thing every single time.
Yeah.
Like it really doesn't. I mean, we know that better than ever after talking about Italian brain rot last episode. Like sometimes humor is just, it doesn't make sense, and that's what makes it funny.
Yeah.
And it can be frustrating because you could be dying laughing at something and somebody else would be like, I don't like, what is going on here?
Yeah.
But that's also what makes it special, right?
Sure.
Because it's not always a universal experience.
Yeah.
Sometimes it's just it's especially fun when it's an experience shared with specific people.
Yeah.
And you like share that moment together, like you and your grandpa with that scene. Maybe you were laughing more because your grandpa found it so funny.
That's mostly, yeah.
But it's still like a shared experience, and that's always fun.
I think I would still like the show without him. I don't know if I would find it as early though, because it was kind of like placed. Right. It was kind of like a rite of passage to get that Simpsons. Because I had to be 13. I think that was my parents' rule, and I think that's a good rule. But it was like a rite of passage. Oh, you can finally watch the family show.
You are old enough to watch The Simpsons. Yeah. I remember I don't know. I guess it wouldn't have been The Simpsons for us, but when I was finally old enough to watch The Cosby Show. Well, that didn't age. Of Justin Roiland, that didn't age so good. Show. Yeah. But it's a good show.
Your hero.
Yeah. Or. I mean, you didn't have to be that old because that show was actually pretty family friendly.
Yeah.
But, or old enough to watch. I don't know. We watched Family Ties. It was always fun to, like, when your parents let you watch stuff. Family Matters.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of value to having a show to watch with your family or even friends. Not the show Friends, but like with your actual friends. Hopefully, if you have any. And yeah, I think.
Sometimes those shows too, like I was thinking with The Cosby Show and Family Ties, like they like actually like make you talk to your parents about things. You're like, I don't know, like you can have like some pretty deep conversations coming out of, because the shows are about like kids growing up in families and different family dynamics. So
yeah, they bring up a lot of ideas to be discussed, if that's what you're into. I don't know.
Right. Or you could just not do that and you could just laugh.
There are like
with your family.
A lot of shows in my life that are, it's like that's probably the one show that defined my family, I guess, if I had to pick a show, if I had to. But there are a lot of shows that my friends and I watch that when I watch the shows, I think of my friends.
Right.
And like really shows can kind of encapsulate a certain time period of your life where you had a certain mindset and you're, in a certain stage of life, I guess. And it can bring you back when you watch the show. Like Breaking Bad really reminds me of when I lived with Caleb and we watched it together. And I had already seen the show, but I remember I watched it with him just to see his reaction to the show, and he's over the top with his reactions. Caleb is.
And he would be a good person to watch.
He's like, dude, this is so freaking cool. Like that's his reaction, and it was. I just remember that it was a good time, and like Community, I remember watching with him too, and he loved Pierce, and And Stranger Things, like lots of different. My pastor and I really like Stranger Things.
Like David and I watched Stranger Things together, and I remember being in his basement.
Yeah.
I think he had maybe seen the first season, and similar thing. Like it was the first time watching it, and it was just like dark, and he had his super loud speakers, and
of course,
it
had to be
like
4K
that.
for him to even
4K.
watch.
Yeah, it was a much probably better experience because I watched it with him in his basement. But yeah, you're right. They really transport you to a time of life.
Definitely. I think The Simpsons is really good at being that show for lots of people. I don't just bring that up to share my own personal experience. I think it's kind of become a staple for many families, to where Sunday night is a Simpsons time. Not that that's necessarily like a great thing, but it's a show that is shared across culture, across families, across different cultures, in fact. And it's popular in like Japan and Korea and China. I mean, I don't know about China, but at least in those places. And there's an episode where I think Bart moons Australia, like the country. And yeah, it's just like, there was a little bit of war between Australia and the U.S., but then Australia was also came around and was kind about it. It's just like there's a lot of worldwide interaction when it comes to this show. And I think that's why, since it's so integral to the culture, people find value in it and can find it easy to talk about. And, you wear a Homer or Bart Simpson shirt, and people across most cultures, besides maybe tribes in the Congo, know what that show is. You know what I mean? Like Japan, Korea. And it's just because it became a staple, not just of American culture. Even though it started out as the nuclear family in American culture, it really expanded. And over time, 4 decades almost, it has become almost like irreplaceable and one of the most influential things of all time. So I think there are so many things I could talk about in the show. My favorites, my least favorites, the different phases and different eras of The Simpsons, just because there are, there's almost half a century of history, and I'm not going to do that. I think this movie is really just an excuse for me to talk about the show. And this movie is a culmination of the first 17 seasons. Now, I will say, specifically for the movie, Homer coming around is a big trope in the show. Like him coming around last minute to save the day. And he does it again in this movie. But it's also, I think, like I said, the tone is different. It's almost a higher level of him coming around.
Yeah, he has to be dropped lower.
Exactly.
Than he probably normally would.
Exactly. He's never had his family leave him in any of the show. The stakes have never been higher, I guess. And I appreciate that it's not like, oh, people are going to die. That happens in every Simpsons episode. Someone's about to die. But in this, it's like, oh, his relationships are going to end, maybe. And that's never been tested to the fullest extent as it is in this film. And I appreciate that a lot. I think even the fact that Bart is finally like considering Ned as his father figure after all these seasons, when Ned is so good to him and the family, and Homer is just such an idiot at the beginning of this film, and Bart starts to lean into Ned. And I think that dynamic is like something that could have been foreshadowed for a decade, a long time. And the movie kind of finally explores that idea of like, oh, what happens if Homer does take it too far with his son, and Bart really wants to actually look up to someone who's better. And for the final scenes where Homer risks his life, gets on the motorcycle and breaks the glass, gets the bomb out of there, even though it's like a cartoonish way for the show to end,
right?
When there's a bomb and Russ Cargill's just trying to erase Springfield, and it's like, at next left, you'll turn into nowhere, right? It's they delete it from the maps.
It's the new Grand Canyon.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's a commentary on how the town is so insignificant that nobody would ever miss it.
Yeah.
And that's not a joke. Like, nobody would ever miss it.
Exactly. And it's funny because like it's the EPA, like of all government agencies, to destroy a town, you know what I mean? Like the Environmental Protection Agency.
I've never told you about this, but I read a book by a guy. He was a Christian financial advisor guy, but he wasn't Dave Ramsey.
I was about to ask.
Different guy that.
Okay.
I guess I'll just say his name. I'll just say the name and the book because I don't know why I would not say it. His name's Larry Burkett. Really good financial. I mean, he's got good financial advice. In fact, I probably prefer him over Dave Ramsey. But I think he's a little softer, a little bit more. He's got better tact. Maybe some people need the Dave Ramsey screaming at him to make better decisions. But if you're just the average Joe, Larry Burkett, I think he may have passed now. So all his stuff is like maybe old, out of date a little bit. But anyway, he wrote a book that was a fiction book called The Thor Conspiracy. And you can already imagine, right? Conservative, Christian, The Thor Conspiracy. What are we writing about? Well, it involved, I can't remember exactly everything about the book, but I know the EPA was like, they were like the military in this like futuristic version of America. I don't know. That's just stuck out to me.
A fictional book or
fictional book?
Okay, so he wrote fiction as well.
He wrote a couple fiction books.
Interesting.
That were probably in hindsight not really that good, but when I read them when I was like 15, I thought they were awesome.
Whatever they are, they'll be better than
But
Greta
again,
Gerwig's Narnia.
Whatever idea he could come up with, The Simpsons had already done. Although, I mean, maybe he wrote that book before this, but still, like.
Interesting.
Yeah.
That you read his fiction books.
Yeah.
That you read a Christian financial advisor's fiction
Yeah, this
books.
is like the really obscure stuff that I've read in my day and age.
Interesting.
I would read every book that I could get my hands on when I was younger.
Homeschooling's so interesting.
I know.
It's just like.
Well, I'm sure. I don't think my dad liked Larry Burkett, and I think he just had the books. I don't think he like read them. He just he liked Larry Burkett so much he bought whatever book that he had.
I'm not going to read it, but I'll support you.
He had another one called Solar Flame that was about a solar flame happening. That one was actually kind of interesting, but
like, how many people, like an author probably has, let's say an author sells 100,000 books. How many people are actually reading it? Because so many people just buy books and put them on the shelf and never get to them. And I'm just wondering, like, if you write a work, what percentage of people are actually reading it?
It's probably similar to YouTube videos. The retention rate.
Yeah.
30%. It starts here.
Okay.
Like 100% of people read the first page. Probably not even that, but let's just say. And then it like.
I see. So like retention as in they start the YouTube video and then most quit before the end.
Quit before the end. Okay. And I would say that's probably very true of books. Like most people don't make it to the end of.
Because I'm just thinking like how many
they
people
usually
are
start
actually disseminating the information that you're getting. Even like smart books, like textbooks, like how many people are actually getting a lot out of this? Probably very few.
Isn't that the crazy thing about like we have so much information and like now it's more about like first of all there's a premium on like even the movies we review. It's like you got not like now to compete for the Movies Vault's attention. It used to be like random, like white chicks could make it, now you got to like really either you got to really hit us emotionally or be covering a theme that we're interested in or like be a director who's made or be a movie that's been made. What am I even trying to say?
It's become more competitive to be on the Movie Vault.
Yeah, to like be studied by the Movie Vault has become more competitive than ever, and that's because we've realized the vastness of the amount of movies that there are.
Yeah,
and there's so many bad movies, and some people there's a lot of podcasts that cover those, and that's not us. We cover movies that we think are interesting or hit us personally, like the Simpsons movie.
Yes.
But then just think about all the movies that never get touched.
And I feel bad
so
for
many
it because
good movies.
We are going to watch Picnic at one point. It's literally an hour and 10 minutes. It's such a good runtime. Barely reviewed on Letterboxd. Barely logged.
I know. Think about how many movies there are like that.
One of the most beautiful movies I've ever seen. And I rewatched it on the plane ride. And it's probably going to remain at my third favorite film.
Wow.
But I just really love that film. And I'm imagining, like you said, that there are thousands of movies out there like that.
And there are thousands of movies out there, and I chose to watch Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey. And I think that's beautiful. There's millions of movies. There's many, many high-quality movies.
You're on a horror kick, right?
Yeah, kind of.
We need to watch
I'm watching this like clown movie that I haven't finished yet, too.
We
like
need to watch Picnic sometime.
Yeah, we do need to watch Picnic. All right, well, do you want to say our closing thoughts for The Simpsons?
I want to do a small series one day on The Simpsons and just talk about it a little bit. Or I could do a separate podcast and review each episode on each
The
episode.
Simpsons Vault.
Where there are 700 episodes I got to get through.
I mean, if you wanted a retirement job.
Or I could do, maybe we talk about this off, but no, I'll just say it. Maybe I do like a small short miniseries where I cover the different eras. Because there are only like 6 major eras.
You should definitely make like a video about the Simpsons or some sort of Simpsons content. That would be a good.
Yeah.
That would be a good. Whatever you did, like, 6 Simpsons references you never noticed, or whatever. Yeah. You could do literally so many things.
I could
That's
rank.
The beautiful thing.
I could rank all the seasons.
You could rank all the seasons.
I love ranking.
And rankings are great content because that's simple. People understand that.
We have our business meetings on air.
Yeah, we really do. We're not joking about that. The juices are flowing.
Yeah.
Sometimes you.
Yeah, I think there's a lot more to say, but for the movie itself, not really. The movie doesn't have a terrible amount of depth. Neither does The Simpsons, but it's the heartwarming ability to relate to others through this medium that The Simpsons, finds its strong points in. I think you have your David Lynch. I'm going to always bring up David Lynch in every episode.
And we're still in the middle of the series, if you haven't forgotten.
We have our David Lynch. What a weird episode to do in the middle of it.
We're going to go back to the straight story.
This is how David Lynch would have wanted it. Like, of course. How do you do it? Yeah, of course.
Well, Zach, The Simpsons. I've been on it. I'm sure they've done a David Lynch. There's been a Lynchian episode.
He was on one.
So I really love it, and I wish I could. They would invite me to make an episode, but they won't. So whatever.
Yeah, I think he would never do anything for Disney again after that straight story. But yeah, anyway, so it's kind of a weird one to do in the middle of that.
But it's the 138th episode. Spectacular.
Yes, it's our 100. And honestly, it's celebrating that milestone for us. We like to celebrate ourselves for doing a podcast.
We did a 50th episode spectacular. Now, I don't know at what point, having a podcast becomes like, I've realized more and more people are making podcasts. But I do think like the more episodes you can make, it doesn't necessarily mean you have more validity as a podcast, but it means you have more perseverance.
We have committed longer than most.
Committed more time than most people.
Mm-hmm.
Most podcasts do not make it 138 episodes. Actually, I think the statistics are probably most don't make it past like 3.
We have seen podcasts of our friends rise and fall in this time that we've been. And we have seen podcasts that are popular rise and fall.
Mm-hmm.
So we're still here.
And we're still here. And you know what advantage we have? Our podcast is not predicated on making money. So that's how some podcasts fall.
If you see that as an advantage, that is the greatest advantage,
Exactly.
So,
but if you'd like to give us money, we're always open to business deals.
Yeah, in or outside of the podcast medium. And
but if you need insurance, call Hedman England Agency, 614-486-7300.
614-486-7300. I have recently had an accident.
What?
Not a car accident.
Oh.
But it was on my car, and it was an accident.
Okay.
Now, it wasn't my accident. Someone had knocked off my mirror and was not very nice about it. And I called my agent at Hedman England Agency, who helped me and was very gracious and was not harsh. Even said I should show some grace to this guy if these conditions are met. Unfortunately, the guy was not cooperative, so I had to use my full force of the law. But I immediately filed a claim with the help of my agent. And as of today, 10 days later after the claim was filed, because there was no statement from the other guy, I have been approved for my claim, and I will get reimbursed for fixing the mirror on my car.
And you pay for great service. And sometimes you need a calm insurance agent.
I would have been afraid to call my dad. I am 23 years old. I didn't know how to file a claim. And I don't always trust ChatGPT. I also don't have premium of ChatGPT.
Yeah, now that they have that.
And my father, I go to him for too many things when it comes to car stuff. And my agent is just like a nice in-between where I can not be afraid to go to my dad about, oh, sorry, Dad, I did this again. Like, whatever. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Sorry. I'm not trying to get personal.
But the point is... Check out Hedman England Agency.
Yeah, and tell them that Ben and Zach sent you. What kind of movie highlights do you have, Ben?
Well, I watched Black Bag.
Okay.
I don't think I talked about this on the last episode. Black Bag is a new Steven Soderbergh movie.
Oh, cool.
And it's on Peacock now. And I have written a review, and I'm trying to decide how to make it into a video because YouTube is completely... I tried to clip the movie. It will not let me. I mean, it's like completely blocked.
Okay.
So I don't know whether to... I prefer the record over something else rather than video myself, but I might have to video myself. So I got to get over my fear of videoing myself.
Okay.
And having to edit a different way than I've become accustomed to. But I do have a review written, so you'll get my full thoughts. But the main takeaway is that I need to watch more Steven Soderbergh movies.
Really?
Because he has a very extensive filmography.
How much?
And of course,
like how many in the dozens?
Like
or?
30
Wow.
films.
Okay.
He's a very hardworking filmmaker. And not all. I mean, of course, everyone knows Ocean's 11. Everyone knows Magic Mike.
Yeah.
Everyone knows, his most popular movies. But he's made a lot of, kind of under the radar. This is kind of a return to form spy thriller with Michael Fassbender and Cate Blanchett. And they're married and they're both agents. It's kind of slick and cool and awesome. And people eat, which is a staple of Soderbergh.
Yeah.
People eating food. So that's cool. Then I watched a couple of Charlie Chaplin movies, which those are kind of hacks to get more movies logged on your letterbox because
I think
they're like 30
comment,
minutes, but they're legitimate movies because they, in that era, that you were probably watching 2 or 3 movies at the theater at a time because they're all 30 minutes. But like with the plots of these movies, like you're not going to make them an hour.
Yeah.
But I watched The Immigrant, which is Charlie Chaplin as an immigrant. And then The Idol Class, which is kind of a Charlie Chaplin dealing with social class issues, higher and lower class, and, all that. So capitalism movies were popular back in the 1900s too.
Okay.
Then I'm really excited about this movie, and I think I should rate it 4.5 stars instead of 4. Amarcord, which is...
Did you just change it just now?
Yeah, I just did. Because I've been thinking about that I should. This is a Fellini movie, and it's also sort of semi-autobiographical, which if you watch 8.5, this is a standard Fellini type thing that he does. And it's surreal, and it takes you to a place that I've never been, which is like Italy in the 1930s, and there's the changing, political side of Italy where they were becoming fascist, and there's, the coming of age things with all these teenage boys, and just how the whole town works, and people making good decisions and bad decisions, and a lot of dreamlike sequences, and just the music. Dun, 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 dun. It's been stuck in my head since I watched it, and his obsession with the circus, which is in like every movie that he makes. I mean, I just love Fellini. I need to watch more of his movies.
Is that 8.5, The Circus?
Kind of. I mean, it's not like super direct, but like it's there.
Is 8.5 still in your Mount Rushmore?
Yeah, 8.5 is definitely in my Mount Rushmore.
Okay.
And so slowly but surely, I'm working my way through the Fellini movies that I want to watch. We'll see which one I'll watch next. And then, of course, I watched Winnie the Pooh, Blood and Honey.
Of course.
Which I said in my review, I was promised Winnie the Pooh, Blood, and Honey. And I got all 3 of those things. So, successful movie.
Yeah.
Definitely
1.5 stars for you.
Yeah, 1.5. I mean, it's hard to judge these movies because I'm not really sure, like...
What standards?
What are they trying to accomplish? Like,
yeah.
Like, it's a slasher, and I like watching slashers. I don't know why.
Yeah.
But every once in a while, you just want to watch it.
Can a slasher become...
Like, should you judge it by... Like, I think initially I rated it higher than I watched. I was influenced by other reviews, and I shouldn't do that. I shouldn't be influenced by other reviews because a lot of people reviewed it rather harshly. But if you're wanting to watch a slasher, like, it's a perfectly fine, like, everyone dies type movie. Yeah. And it's interesting because it's Winnie the Pooh.
Yeah, it is interesting. I'll tell you that. And I'm still waiting for Bambi the Reckoning.
Yeah. Whatever the studio that they're doing, like, a bunch of these, like, so many.
They're
There's
gonna
the
make a lot of
Tooth
money.
Fairy. There's there's all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a Popeye one, Popeye the Slayer Man.
Yeah. I mean, it's just like what nice cuddly things can we make kill people violently?
Yeah, that are in the public domain.
Mm-hmm.
So this was like the one that started it off, and I remember being like excited about it when it came out. Anyway, now I'm talking too much about my movies.
No, you're good. You're good.
But,
I watched Spaceman. It is a 2024 film starring Adam Sandler by himself in a film. It's kind of like the movie Gravity with Sandra Bullock, except it's more psychological, and it's about Adam Sandler forming a relationship with a spider, a giant talking alien spider in the spaceship that could be real, maybe not. I had a psychiatrist colleague of mine, I should say friend, who had recommended this to me from a psychiatry perspective, and I watched it with Micah, and we both agreed like it's such an interesting film, I'd say. And it's about him like coming to grips with him pursuing his dreams rather than being with his wife, and the spider kind of helps him discover that. I mean, like Sean Fennessy gave it 2 stars. It was pretty poorly reviewed, but I think my psychiatrist friend was like, people really just don't understand all the layers of this film. And I think Adam Sandler does a great job acting in this film.
And it might be one of those movies where people like look, oh, it's Adam Sandler, and they kind of like write it off in their head.
It's like, when can he finally get that role? He's had Punch Drunk Love, Uncut Gems. Like, when does he finally?
Here's the thing: he can get that role. He doesn't want it. Adam Sandler tomorrow. Well, okay, it might be a two-way street.
I thought he's trying to.
I don't know whether he I've always thought Adam Sandler was a guy who just like wanted to make like dumb movies with his friends.
Yeah, but I always thought like he's trying to get out of that.
He knows he can do Punch Drunk Love.
Okay.
But you're right. I mean, he's done Air. He's done a lot of stuff with Netflix that has been like not like traditional like goofy Adam Sandler stuff, but like more like serious. So maybe he is trying to get out of it, and now it's like, but he spent so many years doing
it's hard. It's difficult.
Like, and in some ways he did typecast himself, right?
Exactly.
Because I feel like after Punch Drunk Love, he had an opportunity to be like, see, I can do it. And maybe that movie wasn't appreciated enough, because I think it's one of the all-time, great movies. Yeah. But,
Yeah, I think that's fair. I watched the movie Knives Out, finally. I'm catching up. I was on that plane
I've watched like 3/4 of that movie.
It's pretty good. I gave it 3 stars. It's enjoyable. It's fun. It has some good meaning to it. I was hoping there would be a little bit more to it. I think I was slightly disappointed.
Have you ever watched Clue, the movie?
No, I have not.
Because that would be like, because Knives Out is supposed to be Clue, kind of.
Yeah.
So it's like the modernized version. But the movie Clue is like literally, like so obviously based on Clue. But
yeah. Now, like, the plot itself was just like slightly less interesting than I thought. So I'll just give it that. Okay, Ben, this is the big one. I watched The Shape of Water.
I saw that.
Yes.
I was very, and this was like a day after I saw Ben Shapiro's. I've been watching Ben Shapiro review movies.
It's such an interesting thing.
It is.
I watched some
and
of that on
he
YouTube.
hates the Shape of Water.
Yes, he does.
He hates The Shape of Water. And the way that he like thinks about movies is so interesting, because it's like, it's kind of an angular, which is not what I would expect.
He can't step out of his framework.
Yeah, it's a very angular way of viewing things, and I love, and I'm not the world's biggest Ben Shapiro or like Matt Walsh fan, but I find this like fascinating that they're like so into reviewing movies now.
Well, yeah, they're always,
and they're getting me to click.
Culture.
Yeah, they're getting me to click on their video, so it's working.
Yeah,
but like, because I find both of them, like, they would have a difficult time like really getting a lot of movies. Like, I can't imagine Ben Shapiro being like, oh, I love Fellini, or because it's just not as logical. I don't know. He loves The Dark Knight. He loves logic. Of course he loves Christopher Nolan. He loves facts and logic. I know. It's Christopher Nolan. And it's crazy to me to think that he was like, people say he was like a failed he really wanted to be a screenwriter, but I just don't see it. I don't know.
Whatever. The Daily Wire can make their own movies.
I feel like he found what he was supposed to do.
They can make movies about Donald Trump on the Daily Wire or something. Yeah. The Shape of Water. I thought, what movie can I watch that will like surprise Ben? and also be like super interesting that I'm on the edge of my seat. This covered all those bases.
Guillermo
Obviously,
del Toro.
a woman makes love with a sea monster. That's the premise of the movie. Just
I don't know much about the
wow.
movie beyond that.
Wow, it's like it's a little bit graphic. Not it. I'll say it is graphic.
But it's like in the movie sort of way, graphic way.
Yeah. It's not like it's a little bit inappropriate. It's not, but it's not like terrible. I will say like it's just so interesting. You know what I mean? Like I've never seen anything like it. It won Best Picture in 2017.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It was Guillermo del Toro's, that's the movie that he won.
That's crazy. Above Pan's Labyrinth. Now I didn't love Pan's Labyrinth. I watched the Pinocchio a few years ago. That was good. I'm not a big Pacific Rim fan. I like Blade.
Although we know a big Pacific Rim fan.
Yeah, Samuel George. The Shape of Water is kind of endearing in some ways. Okay, listen. I don't agree with most things in this film, but it kind of had me like the characters and it kind of had me like the plot. And this is terrible and I regret this, but I kind of was rooting for the relationship at the end of it. Listen, I know I was manipulated through themes and music and camera angles.
Hey, that means the movie was doing its job.
Yeah. I will say
so, he's making a Frankenstein movie that's coming out this year.
Yes, I'm a little bit excited. We'll see how that goes.
So to you, best Del Toro?
No, I like Pinocchio better. Ben, I kind of want you to watch this movie.
I'll watch The Shape of Water.
I just think it's like I don't listen.
I've thought about watching it. I've thought about watching it several times.
This is one of those movies where it's like I don't wish it was the way that it was, but I'm not sure I would have been interested if it wasn't.
Right.
It was so interesting, Ben. It was so interesting. And it kept me watching in a way that a movie hasn't done in a while. So great acting scenes. It's about a mute woman who can't connect with people because she's mute and she lives with like her gay best friend, and they both can't find love in this time era, and she goes and finds the sea monster at the factory that she works at and develops a relationship with it. And it's a short movie. I think it's about less than an hour and a half. So the love goes pretty quickly to the point where she's like willing to commit herself to the sea monster after meeting him like 3 times.
That's crazy.
Because they can connect. There's a musical number in it where the sea monster and her sing. So
I always love movies that just have random musical numbers in them.
This is a botch. Don't watch it just for people's sake. But I think, Ben, you should watch it. I want you to experience what I experienced. This should not have won Best Picture.
You don't think so?
No.
What was nominated in 2017?
I don't know.
Now I'm curious.
I remember there being lots of movies, and I remember being surprised by both this winning and Moonlight in the next years.
Well, because Moonlight, the big thing was they wrongly announced, which I think I've not watched Moonlight, but like La La Land was a good movie.
Yes,
I think
La La Land should have won.
When it came out, I was thinking, oh man, like it's a musical, and this was, I don't know how old I was. And then when I did watch La La Land, I still think about La La Land. I still like have the songs playing in my head.
Yeah,
like I was just thinking about it the other day. Okay, Best Picture. Oh, this is the wrong year. This would be the 2018 Oscars because it came out in 2017.
Yes, so it's always.
Okay. I'm excited to talk about this. I love making our podcast episodes go longer. No, I'm serious about this because we actually talk about interesting things.
Just disagreeing with you.
I remember this year. So this is the year that had 3 billboards outside of Ebbing, Missouri.
Which you've seen.
No, I haven't.
Have not.
But,
okay.
But it's a movie that I remember this. I remember following the Oscars this year, but not really have it. But I didn't really watch movies.
Yes.
Does that make sense? So it was impactful from that sense. So I haven't seen this movie, but I heard about it, and I remember being like, "Oh wow, that's a weird
premise."
Story premise. But it has Frances McDormand in it, so of course, The Post. whatever. Meryl Streep's in it, so of course they were like Phantom Thread. Okay, now we're talking.
Yeah, DDL.
That's a great movie, but it was never probably going to win Best Picture. Lady Bird. Okay, decent movie. Greta Gerwig. Get Out. Okay,
good movie.
Kind of surprised that one didn't win, to be honest. Dunkirk. Yep, Christopher Nolan.
Mm-hmm.
Darkest Hour. This is like, classic Oscar bait movie about Winston Churchill. Call Me by Your Name. Again, a movie that probably was never going to win, but kind of got Luca Guadagnino on the map.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, Shape of Water. So which movie do you think?
Phantom Thread.
I mean, I think that might have been the best movie on this list.
Isn't that what it's supposed to be? Isn't that best picture?
Yeah. But that's not what everyone else would think is the best. I think Get Out, if they redid it, I think Get Out would
don't
win.
you find it confounding then that they just now added the rule for the Oscars and Academy Awards in general that the people judging and making these decisions must watch all the films?
Yeah, that is.
Isn't that strange that they
I
just
didn't
made
realize
that a rule?
wasn't a rule.
They just made it a rule this year. They covered it on the big picture.
Because then how much of the Oscars is just grandstanding and but then again, you wouldn't have expected Guillermo del Toro, who hadn't won an Oscar on this list? I'm just I guess he was a guy who was established and had made some, he had made Pan's Labyrinth, but then again, he made a lot of movies like Hellboy and that weren't critical darlings necessarily. No. They were movies people liked.
I think he should have gotten an Oscar in his lifetime? Yes. Can we make it not Shape of Water though? Can we make it another type of movie?
Has Paul Thomas Anderson won Best Picture?
I have no idea.
Because he didn't win for
There Will Be Blood.
There Will Be Blood because No Country for Old Men won, right?
Yeah, I don't know. No idea.
So maybe his movie coming one battle after another.
He's probably been nominated for most of his films though.
I know. I mean, is he gonna? Yeah, I'm sure he's been nominated for most of his films.
Which is still an honor.
Yes. I mean, I don't know that the Oscars really know what the Oscars are about. It is supposed to be the best picture, but a lot of times it feels like it's not.
But if I've seen more movies than the judges in the contender list, wouldn't I be more qualified?
It shouldn't be that hard to be you have to watch these, or is it 10 movies?
Just take one day or 2 days.
This is your job.
You're quite literally being paid probably lots of money to do this.
You're called thing. The Academy. That's supposed to mean something.
So the fact that that's now a rule is very concerning. And also, how will they be accountable for that? Just check a box on a website that you watch.
That's what they probably already did, right?
I don't know. So I don't think they were required to watch all of them before. So many of them didn't. They would just watch some of them and pick those. And a lot of them were favors for people. So
yeah, no, that's so much of it is the campaigning,
interests,
and it makes you wonder how much you should actually care about winning an Oscar, if you're a filmmaker.
But sure, but it really does boost a lot of things for you. So you should care, but not because it's an honor for you, but more because it boosts your career.
Which doesn't help people like Scorsese, who won it at the. Okay, he made a lot of movies after he won in 2006, but for most people that would be the tail end of their career, right?
Departed?
Yeah, The Departed. Yeah. I mean, he still made a lot of movies after that, but most people wouldn't have, is the point. I mean, most people don't make movies till they're in their mid-80s, you know? No. That doesn't happen most of the time.
Nobody's a Scorsese or Lynch or people like that.
So, and Lynch never won.
That's sad.
Mulholland Drive. Okay, what year is Mulholland? We're preemptively talking about this.
Was 2000.
So that would have been the 2002 Oscars?
Yeah.
Because movies that would have come out in 2001.
Yeah.
So I doubt it got nominated for Best Picture because at this point only 5 movies were getting. In the Bedroom by Todd Field got nominated. Mulholland Drive didn't. That movie. I don't know anything about it, but that's the point. You've never heard of it and it got nominated.
Well, I don't think
I've heard of Todd Field.
I've heard a lot of these movies.
He got nominated for Best Directing, and Ron Howard won for A Beautiful Mind, which also won Best Picture, which you at this point in time in the Academy, you couldn't think of a better movie that the Academy would love other than A Beautiful Mind. They love these biopic things with Russell Crowe. They weren't ready for Mulholland Drive.
It's funny
And
because
Fellowship of the Ring might be like some people would say like the Lord of the Rings movies should have won all 3 years that they were nominated, but they weren't going to do that.
That's stupid. I will say I think David Lynch is still ahead of the time that we're in now.
Yeah.
I think David Lynch movies will become popular in a decade or two.
Jimmy Neutron snubbed for best animated feature film.
Gosh. Oh my gosh. You see, it's all a joke at the end of the day. So like people might ask why even try, but there's a lot of financial gain in winning these things, which makes it very political, and you got to backstab and get your lobbyists out there and campaign. And
I mean, this past year was pretty interesting. Like nobody knew who was going to win. Anora got it.
Yeah, it
She
could have been
won
so
Palme
many
d'Or.
things. Yeah.
And this, you know.
Now then, years past, like Everything Everywhere All at Once sweeping the Oscars. That was a big thing.
That one's one that I'm curious how that one will age. Because I feel like it hit really well in the moment.
It's almost a zeitgeist as well.
Yeah, but like, is that movie gonna ever like in 5 years will everyone be like that movie was kind of like stupid? Because remember, this is the same people who made the Fart movie.
Which is what?
You remember that movie we reviewed with Caleb? With
Swiss Army Man?
Yeah.
That's the same as
the same
Everywhere
people.
All at Once?
Yeah, the Daniels.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I'm dead serious.
Is that why they had so many like hot dog finger jokes?
Exactly. That's what I'm
my
saying.
gosh.
Like
I liked that movie.
I
be
did.
honest.
I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it a lot. But
Best Picture? I
Ben
don't think-
Shapiro didn't like it, and he
Of
made me
course.
think about it.
Of course. it doesn't fit into what I think.
The hot dog fingers are stupid.
Yeah, we're not good at him yet. We need to get to Ben Shapiro level.
Well, when Ben Shapiro comes on our podcast one day, which is more likely than
What will we review with him?
I want to review something that he would absolutely hate. Like I would want to like just there's this
Inland
movie,
Empire.
There's this movie. I'd want to watch something like Surreal or something. I mean, we could do Inland Empire with him, but
That feels too easy.
there's
Because most people would hate that.
the Charm. There's this French movie that I want to watch soon.
What do you
forget
think? What do you
what it's
think
called?
Ben Shapiro would think of Tchaikovsky? Sorry.
Tarkovsky. I think he would like Tarkovsky
Really?
because Tarkovsky is like deeply philosophical.
But
Yeah.
like in the right ways.
Yeah, like in a very like Russian sort of.
Okay.
I don't know.
I believe you.
We need to do the
you've seen more of him.
Tarkovsky series.
We need to breathe first. We need to breathe.
Episode 245. We can
The
start.
Simpsons movie is a breath of fresh air, but in the midst of the Lynch arc. But we need a few breathing. We came off of Malick. We keep saying this, like as if we're war veterans coming off of Malick, you know. But to some degree, yeah.
5 Malick movies. I dare you to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, we could have extended it, and that would have been even harder. But
We would have added like only 2 more good films if we had extended it.
I am curious. Every time I see like Knight of Cups come up on some streaming service, I'm always like, maybe I should see what it's like. But one day.
I thought about if this biopic that he's doing of Jesus is good. Maybe we'll review that one day. I don't know.
I would love
Depends
to.
if it's good or
If it's good.
blasphemous, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it's gonna be a tough. It's always tough.
Yeah.
It's always tough when you make movies about Jesus.
Yeah. Like
Ask Scorsese.
Yeah.
Of course, it also depends on how you attempt to pull it off.
What's your framework? Yeah.
Yeah, when you make something called The Last Temptation of Christ, you're definitely gonna.
And anything with Willem Dafoe is a little off,
Yeah.
a little bit crazy.
Even if he is one of the greatest actors, it's gonna be a little.
I thought your stance is he's the best.
Well, that's the stance for the video.
Okay, it's clickbait.
Yeah, it's everything's clickbait on YouTube. You gotta have all or nothing type of opinions. You can't
black or white thinking.
You can't just be like, maybe Willem Dafoe's one of the better actors. That's not gonna get you anywhere. It's not gonna get you anywhere. All right. Well, I guess we will close up the vault here.
Yep.
You know Hans Zimmer did the soundtrack? It's crazy.